The story begins in Mexico, where four friends are enjoying a vacation at a sunny resort. Everything seems perfect. Amy realizes that she's lost her earring, but a tourist named Matthias finds it in the swimming pool and returns it to her. Everyone thanks him and invites him for drinks. While talking, they learn that Matthias is in Mexico looking for his brother, who came here with his archaeologist girlfriend to explore an ancient ruin nearby. It's a mysterious place that's never been mentioned in any guidebook. The group becomes curious, and Matthias says they can all go there together the next day. The next morning, everyone gets ready to visit the mysterious site. Matthias and his friend Dmitri leave a map in their hotel room so their other friends, who are arriving later, can find them if needed. After a while, they reach the city's main area, but the guides they hired never show up. They try calling them, but no one answers. So they decide to take a taxi instead. When the driver sees the map, he refuses to go, saying that place is very dangerous. But when they offer him more money, he agrees, with one condition: I'll drop you 2 kilometers before the place. You'll have to walk from there. The cab drives them to the edge of the jungle. They start worrying about how they'll get back, but Matthias notices that he has some phone signal and even takes the driver's visiting card. As they move through the forest, they find Matthias's brother's Jeep stuck between the bushes. That confirms his brother came this way. Following the map, they continue walking through the dense jungle and stop beside a pond. Suddenly, they notice some local villagers watching them from a distance. They try talking to a few children, but the kids don't respond at all. Suddenly, Matthias brushed aside some leaves and branches, revealing a hidden path. Amy grew suspicious. Why was this trail deliberately covered? But Jeff told her not to overthink it, grabbing her hand and leading her forward. After walking for a while, the group finally reached an ancient ruin. The sight left them speechless. Amy started taking pictures, and Matthias spotted his brother's tent set up on top of the structure. Suddenly, a native man rode up on a horse, yelling angrily in his language. The horse became restless, refusing to move closer. Jeff thought maybe the man wanted money, so he offered him some cash, but the man refused. Moments later, 2 more locals arrived. Matthias showed them a photo of his brother on his phone, but before he could explain, one of the villagers snatched the phone from his hand. That's when Amy, trying to take a picture, accidentally stepped on a strange plant. The villagers panicked, shouting threats that they would kill them. Dmitri climbed onto the vine-covered wall to grab his camera, but that only made things worse. When he tried to return the camera, one of the villagers fired an arrow straight into his chest, and then another shot rang out. Everyone else screamed and rushed up the stone steps to the top of the ruins, desperate to escape. From above, they could see more villagers surrounding the base, setting up camp. But none of them climbed up, they just stayed there, guarding the perimeter. On top, the group discovered signs that Matthias's brother and his girlfriend had been there, a campsite tools, but no people. Their phones had no signal, and Matthias's phone was still with the villagers below. At the center of the ruins, there was a massive pit, a deep, dark hole, but no safe way to climb down. Matthias called out his brother's name, his voice echoing into the void. Then he noticed something sticking out of the vines nearby, a leg. He pulled the vines apart and froze. It was his brother's dead body, tangled in the plants. Jeff looked down at the villagers below. They had completely surrounded the ruins, camping around it like they were guarding a prison. When Matthias stepped away from his brother's body, he noticed a burning itch spreading up his hand, an allergic reaction from touching the strange vine. The group gathered together, trying to figure out what to do next. It was obvious now. The villagers weren't going to let them leave. Jeff tried to stay calm. "We just have to wait," he said. "The hotel knows we paid for the tour. If we don't come back, they'll call the police. And Dimitri's friends are supposed to meet us soon. Maybe they'll come looking for us." Just then, everyone froze. A faint ringtone echoed through the ruins. It was coming from deep inside the pit. Matthias grabbed a lantern, tied a rope around his waist, and started climbing down to investigate. But only seconds later, the rope snapped. He screamed as he fell into the darkness below. The sound of shattering glass and his cries of pain rose up from the pit. The others panicked. They quickly tied another rope, this time lowering Stacy down with a second lantern. But as she descended, the rope ran out, and she still hadn't reached the bottom. "That's all we've got," the guys above yelled. Stacy looked down. In the dim light, she could just make out Matthias lying below her. It didn't seem that far. So she untied the rope and jumped down. But the moment she hit the ground, shards of glass from the broken lantern pierced straight into her knee. As she was trying to pull the glass shards out, Matthias told her that his back might be broken. Stacy shouted up to the group that Matthias's spine was probably crushed, and the smell down there was unbearable. The guys above started thinking of a way to pull both of them up, but Amy said moving someone with a broken back could make things worse. So Amy decided to go down and ask the villagers for help. But the moment she approached them, they all raised their weapons at her. Jeff tried to stop her, but in the struggle, Amy slipped and fell right into the vines. The villagers instantly started shouting again. Angry and scared, Amy picked up some of the vines and threw them back toward the villagers. Most dodged them, but one vine brushed against a child. Without hesitation, one of the villagers shot the child dead. His mother just stood there in shock while Amy broke down crying. Jeff quickly pulled her back up to the ruins. That's when they realized the truth. The villagers were terrified of the plants. That's why they killed Dmitri and the child. And that's why they wouldn't let anyone leave, because now everyone here had touched the cursed vines. Meanwhile, down in the pit, Stacy heard the phone ringing again. When she followed the sound, she realized it was coming from the plants themselves, moving and trembling as if alive. Terrified, she froze. When the stretcher was ready, the boys lowered Amy down. But the rope wasn't long enough for the stretcher to reach the ground. So both girls lifted Matthias together and finally managed to place him on the stretcher. They tied him securely, and then the others pulled him up. Afterward, both girls came back up as well. Jeff, who was a medical student, looked at Matthias's injuries and said he shouldn't move at all. While checking Matthias's brother's bag, Amy found the Jeep keys, and Jeff found Dimitri's plane ticket for the next morning. He believed that when Dimitri didn't show up, people would definitely come looking for them. Eric charged the lantern, and Jeff covered Matthias with a blanket so he wouldn't get cold at night. But Jeff was worried that if Matthias got an infection, he might die. That night, everyone slept inside the tent. The next morning, Stacy woke up terrified because a vine had wrapped around her leg. Eric started pulling it off, while Stacy screamed that she could feel something moving inside her. She panicked even more when she realized vines were growing inside her wound. She screamed at Eric to pull everything out. Eric somehow pulled the vine out, but Stacy kept screaming that she could still feel something inside. Jeff realized the plant's pollen had stuck to their clothes and skin, and that's why the vines were growing inside her. By now, everyone understood that these plants were cursed, and if they didn't stay smart, the plants would kill them one by one. The villagers were keeping them trapped so that this plant wouldn't spread to the outside world. Meanwhile, Matthias said something was wrong with him too. Amy removed the blanket from his legs, and everyone was shocked to see that vines had completely wrapped around both his legs. Matthias was crying in pain. Jeff says that if the vine has reached inside, Matthias's life is in danger. Jeff immediately helps Amy remove the vine. But Matthias's legs are already so badly wounded that cleaning the injuries becomes very difficult. At that moment, a phone rings from down inside the pit. So Amy and Stacy grab a torch and go down. The ringtone is coming from a cave, so they have to step over vines as they move forward. Inside the tunnel, they find an archaeologist, probably Matthias's brother's girlfriend, tangled in vines. When they turn her over, they realize she's dead. There's a phone in her hand, which the girls try to grab, but the screen is already broken. Suddenly, the ringtone begins again. Amy looks closely and realizes the sound is coming from the flowers of the vines, vibrating and making a phone-like noise. When Amy reaches to touch them, the vines immediately grab her hand. After a struggle, she manages to pull free. Then, suddenly, vines on the walls start writhing and shove a corpse out into the tunnel. The vines even steal their torches. The two girls run for the tunnel exit, but the vines follow them. Amy makes it out first, but a vine grabs Stacy's foot and she falls. The vine tries to drag her back down, but Amy runs back, pulls her friend up, and together they reach the rope and call to the others. Once up top, everyone sits down to discuss what happened and what to do next. Eric says they have to get out of there and find help, but Jeff reminds him the villagers below will shoot anyone who tries to leave. Jeff says they're U.S. citizens. Someone will come looking for them. They just have to survive until then. They pull out food and water, each taking only a small bite. Jeff gives some water to Matthias and sees that his condition has worsened. He tells everyone that if they want to save him, they'll have to amputate his leg to prevent the infection from spreading through his body. An argument breaks out among them. Matthias himself said, "Cut them off." While the girls waited in the tent, Jeff gave Matthias some alcohol and placed a belt in his mouth. Then Jeff heated a rock, smashed Matthias's legs, and with what little equipment he had, performed the surgery. Matthias screamed in pain, while Eric had to hold down his upper body. Jeff then sealed the wound with a hot iron pan. Hearing Matthias's screams, the girls ran out of the tent and started yelling at Jeff. And just then, the vines dragged Matthias's severed legs away. That night, Jeff climbed down the stairs again, but the tribesmen were still surrounding the ruins. Inside the tent, Stacy cried nonstop while outside, Amy and Eric sat talking. Soon Amy leaned on Eric's shoulder, sobbing, and Eric tried to comfort her. Hearing Amy's crying, Stacy came out of the tent and thought Amy was trying to flirt with her boyfriend. The two of them began to argue. Meanwhile, the vines slowly reached Matthias. They crept into his body and killed him. When Jeff discovered it, he tried to pull the vines away, but it was too late. Seeing this, Stacy panicked and shouted that the vines were inside her too, that they would kill her as well. She grabbed a knife, trying to check if vines were growing inside her body, but Eric stopped her before she could hurt herself. Enraged, Stacy screamed and shoved Eric away. Suddenly, everyone heard a strange sound. The flowers of the vines were copying Stacy's voice. The next morning, Jeff and Amy saw the tribespeople around the ruins pouring salt on the ground, probably to keep the vines contained within that area. Jeff explained that this plant must be ancient. No animals ever come near it. Just then, Eric came out of the tent and said something was wrong with Stacy. When they looked at her, they realized the vine inside her body was still moving. Stacy begged them to do something, anything to get it out. Jeff poured some alcohol on her leg, made an incision with a knife, and reached inside to pull the vine out. Stacy screamed in pain, but kept insisting, "Get it out of me." Jeff even cut into her back and pulled out more vines. Stacy wasn't fully conscious, but they could still see the vine moving under her skin. Everyone tried to stop her from hurting herself, afraid she might try to cut it out on her own. Amy handed her a bottle of water, but as Stacy started drinking, they all noticed her forehead moving. The vine was still alive inside her. Seeing their horrified expressions, Stacy realized something was terribly wrong. Eric said no one was coming to rescue them. They'd have to use the darkness to escape on their own. While everyone else was resting, Stacy heard a sound outside. She grabbed a knife and stepped out of the tent, following the flowers that were repeating her voice. Moments later, when the others came out, they were horrified to see Stacy. Her mind had completely broken. She was no longer herself. When Jeff tried to stop her, Stacy stabbed him in the hand with a knife. Eric rushed forward to restrain her, but in her rage, Stacy accidentally plunged the blade into his chest. Eric collapsed and died instantly. Seeing what she had done, Stacy completely broke down. Moments later, the vines wrapped around Eric's body and dragged him away by his legs. Unable to bear the agony any longer, Stacy begged for mercy, pleading for someone to end her pain. Jeff slowly stepped forward and killed her, not out of anger, but to put her out of her misery. Afterward, Jeff smeared Stacy's blood on Amy's clothes, handed her the Jeep keys, and told her, "No matter what happens, don't stop running." He carried Amy down the stairs, laid her on the ground, and made it look as though she was dead. Then Jeff walked a short distance away and started shouting at the tribesmen, drawing their attention toward himself. When he saw that they were far enough from Amy, he suddenly stepped forward and screamed her name as loud as he could. Amy immediately jumped up and started running for her life. The tribesmen released a volley of arrows, striking Jeff and killing him on the spot. As the vines began to drag his body away, their leader fired one last shot, ending Jeff's suffering quickly. Meanwhile, Amy ran through the jungle as fast as she could, the tribesmen chasing her every step of the way. After a desperate escape, she finally reached the jeep. The key worked, and she sped away from the cursed ruins. But we see something chilling. As Amy drives off into the distance, a small movement ripples under her skin. A vine, and with this the story comes to an end.